Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. While at ATX Fest, I got to sit down and chat with actor Stephen Colletti from One Tree Hill about his new project, Everyone is Doing Great. They're crowdsourcing it on Indiegogo, which is a little bit new for a TV series. We talked about finding the right tone for the scenes and how he hopes it'll connect with fans of One Tree Hill. The Indiegogo campaign to fund the project runs until July 20th and can be found at igg.me/at/EDG. Hope you enjoy.
Can you talk a little bit about what brought you to the project?
Yeah.
How you got involved with Everyone's Doing Great?
Everyone's Doing Great, yeah. So I, James Lafferty, my partner on this, he came to me with the idea of, something very specific about a comedy in the vein of shows that, we kind of like. Some of this, this darker humor, it's kind of just more real, really honest. We wanted to kind of show a spotlight on what we know very well, which is a version of the entertainment industry that a lot of people don't know, even if you've got success, it's not glamorous. It's not Entourage all the time where even their problems are, they're still at the end of the day going back to $1 million mansion or whatnot, and it's not, the end of the world for them. This is, and there's nothing Entourage, I watched every episode, it's interesting, but it's just, we wanted something that's much more grounded in the sense where you feel like you're kind of peeking around the corner and there's a fly on the wall feel to the show. And James and I sharing that interest in certain comedies and film, we wanted to be able to do that for ourselves. And while we won't always necessarily get looked at to be cast in those roles, there's only one way, there's a way that you can do that, and that's doing it on your own, putting yourself in it. And so from there, we just built it, and thankfully, it was... we didn't know what we were going to get, and if we didn't catch the specific kind of feel and tone of the show, then we were going to can it, But we felt like thanks to our preparation and everyone worked with the Nelms brothers that James has worked with on a bunch of cool ass films. I was so happy to get in with these guys. I'm like, oh man, I always thought it was so great that James worked with the Nelms brothers. Now I got an opportunity to work with them. I'm like, I'm in the community with them now. This is great. So once we got a shot and Ken looked at it, we're like, yes, this is what we want to do. Yeah,
I wanted to ask, when you talk about the particular tone, there's something real about the lighting, about the aesthetic of the show, and I wanted to know how much went into to making sure that all the elements that you had at your control all aimed at the same very specific show, because you are placing these guys in a particular economic strata, a particular point in their career. What were some of the choices that went into?
Yeah, I think that there was, we definitely knew we wanted to go to handheld, right? And Johnny Durango, the DP, did a great job with that. We wanted it to feel, it was going to be okay if it was a little bumpy, I mean, you obviously don't want to do too much here, but to give it that feel where someone's kind of peeking around the corner into these guys' lives, we wanted to feel that way, and I think it kind of adds to the tone of the show, a little darker, that you're like, I don't know if I should be seeing this right now, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's really captivating, I think, to me, is when you have a show where this is really hard to watch, but I'm also kind of laughing myself through it, and I got to keep watching more. It's almost like you don't want to see a car accident, but we all can't help, right? But look as we pass by, there's a fascination there. So, I think, it was important to kind of give it that feel. And then with shooting with the handheld, the lights, we kind of actually still lit, fairly well, but it didn't need to be so glossy, so shiny. Everything didn't need to be perfect.
As far as pulling the stories of these guys having done Eternal, which I love the faux vampire show. It put me in mind a bit of Con Man, the
Nathan Fillion,
Did you just pull all your friends? Are they personal story? Where are you guys drawing from?
Yeah,
these interactions.
I think as for, there's a lot of stuff that, of course, James and I have just a boatload of stories over the years from our experiences in the industry. And we know the kind of teen drama world very well because obviously we grew up working on One Tree Hill. And from there, we've just things that we've witnessed and shared with each other about other people, or just stories that we've heard. It's a hodgepodge of all sorts of stuff, and taking those elements and then exaggerating them in a way. Let's see how far can we take this, and how can these line up with these characters and their storylines, and so we've got this bag of all tricks, I like to call. We got a bag of tricks and stuff that we're going to pull from for years to come while we're able to do the show, because it's just kind of we feel like we have endless stories. And and as far as the eternal kind of vampire element of it, we wanted something to be very distinct that was following them around, and not just that was that one show that they were on. There's something physical in the vampire aspect of it all. We want to be able to do flashbacks. We want to see the photos of them with they're in white face, right, and they got fangs. It's something very distinct, and so we're able to do a flashback and have them having a casual conversation on set 10 years before, where they're talking to each other while they're sitting there with maybe blood dripping down their mouth. I think it adds a really fun element that we haven't seen before, and so we want to do that.
Yeah, it kind of made me think of getting to watch a docuseries about them making Wichita on Love, for example. Or so like great fictional. I have a great love for fictional shows within shows.
Gotcha.
And so it's always a fun
cool.
device.
Yeah. Yeah. The not only the behind the scenes kind of stuff of the Eternal scenes, but we're going to shoot scenes from the Eternal show, and air some of those. Yeah.
I know on Entourage they always kind of made a point of making sure that Vincent's movies looked particularly just atrocious.
Yeah.
And, do you guys have any plans for how you're planning to shoot?
Yeah, we don't. One thing we don't want, while there is something kind of naturally funny about fangs and the white face and just dressing up in that way, that there's something very specific, I think, about that. And in certain situations, especially when people are being taken out of that show, i.e. standing on a street corner waiting for their next set, or at lunch eating that way, right? That's funny. But what we don't want to do is go mock those shows or that world, because that's not what we're trying to do with this. What we want is going to be, people can take it however they want, if they find it funny or not, but when we shoot scenes from the show Eternal, we want it to be good. We want it to look cool. We want it to look badass. We want to get some gothic sets going and some fun scenes, and it's going to be a totally different element to the show, and I think a really cool opportunity. So what we don't want to do is come off like we're trying to mock vampires and werewolves and that kind of thing of that's, how silly is that? Because that's not it at all.
I'm glad to hear that the show has a love for the character's show, that it's not going to be a bitter thing of really resenting Eternal or not liking the show.
No, I think the characters are they're dealing with it in both in different ways, because they feel like it was such a strong part of their life, and they're having trouble breaking away from that. So they have a very personal connection that's not always necessarily positive to it, just because they're in their own mind, they're coming up with all the ways it might have held them back, which is probably something that's more manifested in their own mind than actual reality. Yeah. It's like an excuse, right? And so, I think, but still, there's when they play with they're going to come back, is there going to be a reunion, all that, you get to see some of the sides of the characters and their feelings towards the show. And while a lot of people's natural reaction oh no, we should never go back and do that again, we'll see as time moves on down the line, they're like, why does it have to be a bad idea if we would do a reunion,
Yeah.
So
I'm sure you've experienced some of that, having been on such a huge show so early in your career. Do you think it would have been more difficult had One Tree Hill been genre, or had you been tightly associated with vampires or a particular monster?
I don't think so. Yeah, I wouldn't say so. I feel like it's kind of what I was alluding to before, what these guys are manifesting in their head about the show holding them back. I think it's something that's an insecurity that's just to the person. People they can take themselves so seriously, or this is the path I need to take for my career to get to be the brand that I want to be, and all that stuff. It's I think some people get caught up in that sometimes, and it's just a device they use to just feel so you kind of think maybe as an excuse, or of course when things aren't perfect, in their lives, and they're not quite having the career that they might have expected, they can always say oh yeah, well I probably should have done this probably held me back, and I don't know if I necessarily believe that. I think at the end of the day you're still controlling a lot of your life depending on what you're putting into it and what's coming out of it, but Yeah.
I had a conversation with someone earlier where they talked about directing their first episode of a show that they were on, and how long it took them to ask. And then realizing that no one had ever actually told them no. They had just kind of decided that no was... and that maybe they should just push for it.
Yeah.
Sorry, not really a question.
Well, I think the opportunity for people to direct in shows... one thing I looked forward to on a series, I would definitely jump at that opportunity. Like James did that with One Tree Hill. As soon as he got the opportunity, or I think he's pushing for it for a while, to direct. And I was like, that's smart. I mean, especially if you want to and you have an interest in doing that. Putting yourself in a good position when you're on a series that is having success and, there's all the resources are at your disposal. You know the show very well. I think it's a good jumping off point for someone who's trying to get into directing.
Who are you wanting to be the audience for this show?
That's a great question. It's funny because there's a natural fan base I think James and I have that come from One Tree Hill. And if you look at that show compared to what this show is, it's very different. And some people, may not like this type of show, right? So we understand that we might be losing some people there. We're interested to hear what these audiences and their responses to the screenings about how they feel because they're so used to seeing James's character from One Tree Hill. He holds a very safe spot in their heart. And what he's doing in this show is there's some aggressive, out there stuff, and it's shocking. So we're very curious to see. We hope that they can find a way to latch on to a new character for James and let Nathan from One Tree Hill sit in that spot and then appreciate this guy Jeremy and his new character and see something different from him. And just off the bat here of our 2 screenings that we've had, there is the kind of, you could sense the unfamiliarity and they're recognizing that like they're connecting dots to like what maybe characters in One Tree Hill might think of what his character's doing here. And I think that thankfully it doesn't seem like it's rubbing anybody the wrong way. So I think that's nice that like so far from the diehard One Tree Hill fans that have showed up to our screenings, they are connecting to this piece, which is one of the we couldn't be more happy about. Other than that, I think people that are a fan of seeing something that they haven't seen before in a feel and a style of a show. Not only in the way that it's shot, not only in the way that the dialogue's coming off, but also the kind of feel of something that is like this is very raw and kind of feels real. It feels like this is hitting close to home because it's not like I'm watching some TV show where things are, I think there's a perspective that's kind of like teed up to like, oh, this is the way things are. We're gonna spell this out for you and then get to our moment, right? Our message, and it's gonna go like A plus B. There's a formula there, right? It can be very formulaic. This is a little bit different, and we want a lot of little moments throughout the show to connect people to certain feelings that they feel like they have. Everyone is doing great as the show, but everyone is not doing great. Everyone always just likes to pretend they're doing great. So we want an audience of people to feel like they can connect because they feel like it's real. There's an aspect of it that is close to home, and know that like it doesn't matter who you are or what walk of life you're in. And there's always the projection, especially with social media, that people are putting out there that they're doing great, right? Yeah. I ask you how you're doing, you're like, I'm great, but it's not. So, and I think that it could get people more comfortable with the fact that there's a lot of other people having these emotions or feel something that I, feel the way that they do in certain moments that they wouldn't expect to, and it brings maybe the insecurity out of them a little bit more, and they feel more inclined to speak up or be honest. I think that's interesting because then that's people having more of a direct human connection with somebody and being honest. I ask you how you're doing, and you say, you give me a little bit more of an honest answer. It's like I always like to say feelings check to people. In a quiet room or an elevator. This is an elevator with people. It's like I like getting that reaction. You're like, feelings check, go. How are you doing? You can't say great. So.
Thank you so much for your time today.
That's it. Yeah, dude. Hey, nice talking with you. Absolutely, Les, Steven. Yeah, right on.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener-supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.